Herb is not gonna be able to join us. We have a quorum of 3 members of the planning board. Travis kind of recused himself for this meeting. Herb is not. You're now recording the meeting. So do we have any public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda? So anything other than Mr. Wilson's application? Okay, I do have one adjustment to the agenda. Well, 2 adjustments to the agenda, actually. First is that we, and Terry was on these emails. We were notified by the town attorney that the unilateral extension that we voted on last time was not, the planning board didn't actually have the authority to do that. So we're going to put it on the agenda to revoke that. Sorry. And I think we should do that before we discuss the new application. And then my second adjustment to the agenda is just to note that the way this is worded on the agenda is a little bit inaccurate, just in terms of what we're doing tonight. Tonight we have a new application from Travis for what he is currently doing at the 110 Elm Street lot. Is that correct, Travis? So we will be discussing the particulars of that application, but we will not be voting to approve it or not approve it tonight. We will be setting up, just making sure everybody knows what's in the application, and then scheduling a public hearing and then a vote at the next planning board meeting in 3 weeks' time. So that's just a little bit of a clarification. So if there's no other adjustments, we can go ahead and move on to.
I need you to explain. I don't understand the first statement you made. We didn't have the right to have this meeting, but we're having this meeting now.
Oh, no, we have a right to have this meeting. What we didn't have the right to do was grant an extension. And here's the details.
Okay.
So we voted to grant an extension to Travis's permit for 2 months to allow for this review process, discussion, and a planning board vote on another application. Because there hadn't been an application filed before the planning board for that specific extension. That wasn't something the planning board could actually vote on, because the planning board could only vote on applications that have come before it. So that was an invalid action on our part, and the town attorneys set us straight, which is honestly very helpful. So that was partially my mistake for not recognizing that. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
So I would move that we rescind that vote to grant extension, recognizing that was not an action that the planning board has the authority to take.
So what are the implications for Travis?
I mean, the implications are that he is technically in violation of his permit. Enforcement actions by the town are discretionary. And we have a new application here that we'll be taking some action on in 3 weeks' time. So that limits the amount of time that Travis's current business will be in violation of the permit. That is what I understand. Does that match what you understand, Terry?
That's what I understand too.
Great. So I've made that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. So any further discussion?
No,
Right. So all in favor of revoking that?
right.
All right, 3, 2, 0. So now we have before us a new application from Travis. Only we have to do that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Did everybody read the minutes
I
of the
didn't.
last meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we can approve the minute. You move to approve the minute?
I move to approve the minutes.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor? Okay, that's done. Anyway. So, and does the public? We don't have enough copies of this to distribute, do we, Terry?
I have a couple. I'm surprised. I have 3.
Um, I can just read it as well.
Well, they give them the 3, they could share.
Yeah, I think so. Just so we're clear, I think, like I said, the purpose of this meeting is really just to make sure that everyone has the information. That we have the opportunity to answer some initial questions or field some initial questions and set us up for a public hearing and vote on in the 3rd week of September. So as we're getting that handed out, last week Travis submitted a new application for continuing to use that site for some aspects of his business in a capacity that's smaller than the way that the site had been used in the past, but which reflects your current needs. Is that right? And there's a few things listed here, and I will just read them. So the existing office would continue to be used as an office. The existing garage is no longer used for business use. The office has 3 employees. The existing parking lot on the 110 Elm Street site, that's not across Bartlett Lane, right? That's just the one there used for parking trucks and trailers. And my understanding of that is that you need to have a secure location to park those while you're still constructing an office at your new property. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. No dirt material for business use will be stored. Up to 20 employees. Operating hours Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 13 employees currently, 20 trucks, 15 pieces of equipment, 10 pieces of landscaping equipment, and 10 trailers. And no sign, no lights, and then some screening installed along the property line with the abutters. So if I were to summarize this, basically requesting to use the site as a location to store your equipment.
And not even equipment, just mainly trucks and trailers.
Trucks and
We've got
trailers.
like a couple small pieces of equipment there now, just because we're doing some maintenance, but they're going to jobs or kind of the new property.
Great. So a place to store trucks and trailers where the office employees have the opportunity to keep an eye on them, in other words. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where you get to dispatch out of in the morning, so
Mhm.
to have.
So they show up, they park their personal truck or their personal vehicle, they get into the whichever truck they need, and then they move out. Okay. Are there any questions about this application from members of the planning board?
No.
All right, and then I would ask if there are any immediate questions from members of the public, understanding that the official public hearing related to this application will be held at the next planning board meeting, and we'll have another opportunity to comment. And that there will be letters of official notification sent out to about things like that ahead of that public hearing. But if any initial questions come to mind, we can begin discussing them now. Go ahead.
So a year ago, when we were here, we were told this business was moving to another location. We gave them a year to move. Now we want to keep the business on 118 and have a new location. Is that right?
I think what he's requesting is to use a limited
So there's-
portion of the site that he currently owns and currently operates his business out of in a continuing capacity. Because the new site is not yet ready to house all of the functions of his business. Is that correct?
In
So
violation.
there's been a year, which is a ridiculous amount of time. It's a year. You knew there was a year. When we had the discussion at that meeting,
He said he had a 1 acre cleared, he needed 3 acres, he had the other 2 cleared fairly rapidly.
That's not the discussion.
I just,
What is the material was getting sort of there in a year.
Said,
There's no way I could
I just
build
built
an office in 8 years.
So we bought a home in a neighborhood.
Right.
The ordinance said that V2 did not allow this type of business. We ended up with a home next to such an industrial operation, an earth moving operation. It should
You
be
bought
that-
your house after. this
No, I didn't.
there.
When I built my house, you would run in your.
Your realtor came and asked
You're being plowed and landscape.
Your realtor came and asked me what the plans were.
Yeah.
And I told him exactly what they were.
which you're in violation of that permit, and you had your business. But you're on the planning board now,
It's a non-permissible use. It's a non-permissible use, plain and simple.
I'm grandfather.
I didn't have anything to do with the ordinance. I didn't have anything to do with writing the ordinance. I moved in, the rules were already in place. It's essentially, one person wants to start a business. And in the neighborhood. And the heck of the neighborhood.
Just so we can get it fairly on the record, you're contending that this is an industrial use and not a commercial use, is that?
And
what
I
you're
think
saying?
definition of industrial, use, essentially. If you want to get technical,
I mean, please do, go ahead. If you said, yes, I would like to get technical, you said what you were about to tell me what the definition was.
no, I said I understand what the definition.
Okay.
I'm sure you do.
I mean, I think that, you know, that's.
Okay,
something-
I would like, I know there were many complaints the first time around about noise issues and the timing of the noises. So have there been any improvements regarding that?
Well, hard to believe since we don't store material there or load material there or operate equipment there.
all the trucks leave from that area, they have backup
Yeah.
alarms.
So they leave, they leave at 7 and they're back at 4 apart.
Oh, it's been earlier than.
Yeah. It's been on.
Okay, please do not talk all at the same times because we can't hear what you're saying. So
There's been activity on weekends occasionally.
I saw on the property.
There's, I'm speaking right now. There's activity on the weekends, there's been activity on holidays. It's ridiculous. So we live in a neighborhood, we bought a home in a neighborhood. You're waking sometimes at 6 AM. There's dump trucks coming, emptying material, slamming the tailgates on heavy dump trucks. You know, you jump out of your seat. Backup alarms, just. While they're doing the operations, the machines move back and forth and they're just backup alarms, you know. It's a neighborhood. You know, it's not supposed to be the industrial park or, you know. There's places, there are other people who have similar businesses and they have an appropriate locations. You know. This is a neighborhood when I bought the home. Travis was doing snow plowing, landscaping, it was small scale. You know, 1-ton dump trucks. Not a problem. Now everything is done. Large scale, and that's great, but if you're gonna do something like that, do it in an appropriate location. Don't decide to do it in the middle of the neighborhood. You know, in the middle of the village. I mean, that just seems reasonable. I mean, would you like to have that next door to your house? You've got a family? Would you like to wake up at 6 AM with dump trucks going, backup alarms, tailgates slamming, you know, boulders being dumped into dump trucks?
Do you have like videos or pictures with timestamps or? Because my guys start before 7 and they're done at 4. The only person working on the weekends is me on my property, not business related.
Yeah.
We don't look at
weekends.
That's great.
I'll
Like,
stop
you know,
moving at dark 30, yeah. We've been woke up. By it, you know, there's just no peace and quiet, you know, it's the weekend, you want to relax, and there's activity going on next door. And like I said in the first meeting, we have no beef, you know, we went out of our way to be friends with, you know, Travis and Susan. We all, I never knew Travis before I moved in there, and his original business, I had no problem with that whatsoever. It was a reasonable business, he was already permanent there. And like he said, that was there before I got there, but it was a small scale business. It wasn't offensive, there wasn't light noise issues, there wasn't guys pulling in early in the morning, the trucks with radios blaring right outside our house. You know, dump trucks going up and down the drives, and you know,
It's definitely- And you've got to admit that 20 trucks, it's not a small business anymore.
I've never said it's small business, hence my last permit was for that. And the whole discussion on the last permit a year ago was, under my understanding, was gonna be up for review at the end of that year, not come to an end, or I would have had a permit. But it's not I'm not trying to claim it's a small business, but my business has been there, my business was there before the ordinance got changed.
What was the wording? You don't have the record on the last review.
Right here,
It's in your
and in your packet.
so the issue was it was a non-permissible use of the property. And we were asked to agree to a temporary permit while he moved the business.
It's permissible because I've had a permit there, my first permit was 2018, the ordinance changed in 2021. I had a
Why don't we
permit
have to
before
wait
the
a year
ordinance
then?
changed.
Who changed the ordinance? And if the ordinance changed, why were we not notified that the ordinance changed?
The ordinance review committee or whatever it was voted on. I didn't know the ordinance was changed. But the ordinance was changed, but I've already had a business there. It was an allowed use of the property when I started the business there and got my first permit.
Right.
It's allowed. Just because they change it, doesn't mean they can kick me out. I have,
They didn't change it, they didn't downgrade the permit in the ordinance.
yes, they did. Yes, it is now village.
The ordinance was, the ordinance was made more restrictive. In that area in 2021.
They made the village more restrictive.
We also expanded slightly, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
village
it was just made more restrictive, very slightly more restrictive. Let's see.
Yes, it's
Yeah, regulated, 1 year, then reevaluated.
good. That's what we're trying to do.
So that reevaluation is now happening, we have a new application,
Well,
so.
that was my confusion, why there wasn't something set up prior to the last planning board meeting, because it was never brought to my attention, it was never, I was under the understanding it was a reevaluation.
We brought it to the attention of the board at a meeting, and we were shut down. That
Yeah, I know
was a
that.
violation. So,
Yeah.
yeah. We were curious.
What are the regulations regarding hours of operation, noise? limitation?
I think there's a noise limit of 65 decibels of property line.
And that's starting at what time?
I don't actually know how much of the time, all this out here.
It was all reviewed during that meeting where we talked about the 1 year temporary
I
permit.
remember that.
All of the items were listed, light and noise.
Yeah, and that's why I'm surprised because it's
And,
not in
and
this
none of
report.
the things were in compliance, and as Urban said, they couldn't be brought into compliance. So they asked for a year, which is incredibly generous.
Where they're going to be on violation is about the noise level.
There's no noise level. A dump truck idling isn't any louder than a vehicle.
Yes, it is.
Well, they don't just idle, they don't creep out of the lot idling, and I'll tell you one thing, some trucks are running, you can feel it in our house.
Oh, yeah.
You can feel the trucks run. And there's times when those trucks idle, which is, I found strange because I operate trucks, I'm a CDL driver. We wouldn't idle trucks for an hour at a time, the trucks would just sit there idling. I don't know if they're waiting for the operator to show up or whatever, but, and you can feel it in the house. They're big trucks.
In the hours of operation. Monday to Friday, 6 AM to 6 PM. That's everything.
Okay, I think what we need to do is officially schedule that public hearing. Which will be third Thursday of September, is that correct? an understanding?
Yes, but what does he do in the meantime?
I mean, like I said, I think that the way it was put to us by the town attorney, disciplinary actions of the town are voluntary. So. And that's just the planning board can't weigh in on that.
Well, but in fairness to the people, we need to schedule it as soon as possible.
Let's talk about the schedule then. It has to be at least about 10 days from now, because we need to get notifications to the butters out and then post the agenda,
Yeah,
with
and
proper notice.
I mean, like I have would be the Tuesday, okay, 10 days, that's not gonna be 10 days. So the week of the 11th,
Yeah. So we could do it instead of the 21st, we could look at Thursday the 14th or Wednesday the 13th.
we prefer Wednesday the 13th.
I don't know if that gives us time to get it in the paper, the public hearing. They have funny deadlines.
Well, can we check that?
You can check that.
But
I won't be in tomorrow, but maybe Hannah can call the courier and see.
Mhm.
I think the ad would have to be in the paper by probably it's usually by Monday, but Monday's a holiday, so they'll probably say by Friday, which,
just 2 days from now.
right, I'm not gonna be in the office
Yeah,
for the
the
next
office
2
is
days.
closed on Friday, so. And how many days does it need to be in the paper?
Just gonna be in there for a week, you know, they only open, they only print it once. I think it also has to be posted at least a week in advance.
So, but we reach the paper for the 5th. I mean, if it's an online posting or it's like it has to be a printed state as well.
It's gotta be printed in the paper.
See, but when we review the permit, it's gonna have to be subjected to the new ordinances. You're aware of that, Travis, right?
No, I'm already there. That's what the attorney said last year. I have every right to stay there and expand all the way to my property lines, is what the attorney said last year. My business has been there. It was permitted before the ordinance was changed.
I don't think that's what she said, because you expanded more than 25%, that made it.
No, she said I could expand all the way to the property lines.
Well, I believe that she's gonna be she's got
Yeah,
a meeting on the 21st of September on her calendar, which was
I think-
requested for
I think-
ordinance review purposes.
And I'm sorry for you guys, but I think the 21st would be the easiest, because Kristen will be here. And it gives us time in the office to get the letters out.
Okay.
And everything
so,
mailed.
fine, I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's okay. So I think we'll schedule a public hearing on September 21st, 6 p.m. here. It will be helpful that Kristen will be there. And we'll also plan to vote on this application after the public hearing at this meeting, so we can clear it up.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? We'll see you then. All right, thanks, everyone. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. 6:25. Good meeting.